I want to give a little bit of background as to why I was coming over to London this weekend. I'm a veteran. I served in the late 80s, early 90s, served for 7 years in an infantry regiment. I was a weapons instructor, I was a tactics instructor. I did over 2 years active service on the streets of Belfast, South Armagh, Newry and other trouble spots as they were in Northern Ireland back in the 70s, 80s and 90s. I had the IRA try to kill me several times by the time I was 20 years old, all of them while I was on duty. I had friends that were murdered, I had friends that were maimed. So I know a little bit about what happens when a society descends into sectarian or tribal conflict. And I really believe at the moment that the United Kingdom is on the verge of being at that tipping point. We've seen for the past several weeks in London mass demonstrations by people chanting anti-Semitic slogans. We know the ones I'm talking about, from the river to the sea. We've seen pro-Hamas posters, badges, banners. The people that are organising these demonstrations, 3 of the organisers, I think there's 5 organisers, 3 of them have direct connections with Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. So these demonstrations are not peace demonstrations. These demonstrations are anti-Israeli and to a large extent anti-Semitic. And when Suella Braverman, who's just been sacked incidentally, said that these demonstrations were hate demonstrations, she was absolutely right.
Now, tens of thousands of people take to the streets following the massacre of Jewish people, the single largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust, chanting for the erasure of Israel from the map. To my mind, there's only one way to describe those marches. They are hate marches.
And also, as you'll find out as this video goes on, when Suella Braverman said that there's 2-tier policing in the United Kingdom, she was absolutely right. Because when we look at the way the pro-Hamas anti-Israel demonstrations were policed, and then we look at the way that the peaceful demonstration on Saturday was policed, and we'll talk about that in more detail in a minute, there is 2-tier policing. I've seen photographs of police officers down on their knees next to kids dressed up in Palestinian attire with Palestinian flags. We've seen fireworks being fired at the police and the police not doing anything, just standing there, standing back. And yet, as we'll discover in a minute, when it comes to the policing of an event that's considered to be a counter-protest, that's what they're calling us now, counter-protesters. We weren't counter-protesters, we were going there to celebrate Armistice Day. We were going there to put a buffer around the cenotaph. We were going there to support our veterans. And I felt supported. And any of the lads that were there on that day, any of the football fans, the patriots, were so respectful, thanking us all for our service. Like I say, my service was a long, long time ago, over 30 years since I left the British Army, since I left the military. But I'm a veteran, and I am proud of what our forefathers did and the freedoms that they fought for, and I see these freedoms under direct threat. That's why I came over this weekend, to take a stand against the jihadist menace that is growing in our midst, and it is growing. Believe you me, there's something very sinister going on in our country, and everybody can feel it. And instead of the police policing the problem and the threat, and the security services policing the problem and the threat, they're policing us. But they're not policing us, they're attacking us, and they're bullying the population of this country, trying to silence us, trying to stop us protesting, trying to stop us taking a stand for what is right. And I really see this as a fight between good and evil. So what happened on Saturday? And this is really important that people understand exactly what happened on Saturday. It was all over the media. A video of me went on, I think, every single mainstream news channel when I was standing at the front lines facing off with the police who were trying to attack demonstrators. So let me explain exactly what happened. we formed up as a group in at Embankment Tube Station. We walked up from Embankment Tube Station to Whitehall. When we got to Whitehall, myself and Tommy Robinson spoke to the police. We said we want to get to the Cenotaph and we want to get to Parliament Square. Some people were going to Parliament Square, some people were going to the Cenotaph.
Lads, we want to be at the Cenotaph for 2 minutes silence, man. That's it.
Yep.
Lads, everyone's going to be 8. Each one of them for silence and go. That's it.
The police told us that we couldn't walk up Whitehall, that we had to go up the embankment and find our way from the embankment to the Cenotaph and to Parliament Square. They were the discussions that were had. Obviously, the vast majority of us wanted to go to the Cenotaph. When we got to Scotland Yard, we turned right up the laneway to get directly behind the Cenotaph, well, not directly behind the Cenotaph, but close to the Cenotaph, close enough to the Cenotaph to feel that you were taking part in the act of remembrance in the 2-minute silence. When we got there, after being told to go there by the police, when we got to Scotland Yard, we were met with a line of, I don't know, 10 very, very aggressive policemen, batons drawn, obviously psyched up. One of the guys, I mean, I'm not going to make an accusation that I can't back up, but one of the guys looked like he was on some illegal substance. His eyes were bulging. He was absolutely in a frenzy. When I got there, saw what was happening, I thought, this is not going to end well. This is not going to end well. Not that our lads were going to do anything wrong or illegal, but they wanted to get to the Cenotaph. They were patriots. They wanted to get to the Cenotaph. They'd been told by the police that they could go to the Cenotaph. That's an important point. And we've actually, I believe there's actually a statement by the police that went out that said that people could go to the Cenotaph. So there shouldn't have been a problem. We got to that police line, there's aggressive police officers swinging their batons at people. I think some people were actually hit. I haven't got the video evidence, but I believe that some people were actually hit. There was certainly extremely aggressive and extremely violent towards the demonstrators for no reason. For no reason. I got to the front, realised what was happening, and said to the crowd, it's Remembrance Day, guys, let's just calm it down. At which point, the police officer behind me, the one that was particularly rabid, got more aggressive, more vocal, get back, you know, screaming as they do, get back. And I said to one of the officers, who was quite calm, I says, look, we've got to get through here. If we don't get through here, you're going to have a serious problem, probably serious disorder here. You've got to let us through for your safety and for the safety of everybody here. Because remember, what we've got to understand, these lads that came out on Saturday are absolutely at boiling point with what's happened and what's happening with these pro-terrorist marches in the UK. There is a boiling point and it's been reached. And those guys, I thought, were very disciplined on Saturday. I've watched all the footage, and from what I can see, not one police officer was punched, kicked or assaulted. Yes, there was a push, and the police lines were broken. But when there's a large crowd like that and there's nowhere for them to go, that's going to happen. And the police know that's going to happen. And as we were going through the lines, I heard one of the officers say, it's been breached now, almost like they wanted that to happen. And there's another interesting point about this situation. Once we got to the police lines, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a broadcast quality TV camera turned up, which filmed everything. Now that's very strange. And for that camera to be there at that time and that place, after we'd been sent there by other police officers, if that doesn't smell a little bit fishy to you, well, maybe you're not living in the same world that the rest of us are living in. Did the police set us up? I think they probably did, if I'm brutally honest. But they didn't just set us up, they set their own officers up. Because there was no way those officers could have stopped that crowd. They were literally thrown to the dogs. And I hope those officers sue the Metropolitan Police for any injuries they've got. Because I believe there was a broken elbow, a dislocated hip. They should not have been put in that position either. Yes, they reacted, those frontline police officers reacted very badly, and they should have taken a decision to let us through. But obviously their jobs are on the line as well. So as a veteran, I was standing facing people that in Northern Ireland back during the Troubles I would have protected. And they're waving a baton at me and threatening me to get back. Anyway, we tried to calm the situation down. There was a massive push from the crowd, and all of the guys in the front row were literally catapulted through the police lines. There was nothing you could have done. It's like a rugby scrum. You couldn't stop that happening. And nobody's to blame for that, because there was massive frustration. And I think, to be brutally honest, everybody in that situation got away very, very light. What do I mean by that? There were a couple of minor injuries of police officers, but nobody in that crowd assaulted a police officer. I've watched all the footage. That's not what happened, because we weren't there for that. The whole point of us being there was to show respect to our war dead and to our war heroes. So what do we make of all this? What is this all about? What is the big agenda here? And I think, one, to get rid of Suella Braverman. Two, to make patriotic football fans and veterans and patriots look like thugs. And I don't believe, looking at all the footage, of course the media will spin things, they always do. The media just lie and lie and lie. But the reality of the situation is this, that we did not attack or assault anyone. We weren't the ones that were swinging batons. Can you imagine if we'd all been swinging batons? You know, we would have been beaten off the streets, but we weren't. It was as peaceful and respectful as it could have been, given the circumstances and the provocation, considering the police literally led us into a trap of their own making and put their own officers at risk. And now Suella Braverman has been sacked. Is that coincidental? No. The person that should have been sacked is Sadiq Khan, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner Rowley, and probably Rishi Sunak should resign as well, because he has showed absolute cowardice. Sadiq Khan is an extremely sinister and malevolent individual, in my opinion. And Mark Rowley, well, is he just a useful idiot, or is there something more sinister about him? I honestly don't know. So when we look at what's happened, we see on one side people calling for jihad.
The solution is jihad by the armies of the Muslim country.
People calling for the murder of Jews.
England didn't want the Jews. England didn't want Jewish people in their country.
People calling for genocide of Jews. People celebrating a pogrom carried out by Hamas. People glorifying Hamas. People carrying ISIS flags. People carrying terrorist supporting flags. People in the crowd on the same day dressed as Hamas terrorists. They haven't been arrested. And we look at the arrest figures, and the headline went round: 80 counter protesters. No, actually, back then they were calling us far-right thugs. And some people have actually got the decency to call us counter-demonstrators. We weren't counter-demonstrators, we're just patriots that love our country and want to protect our country from this menace that is coming at us. We see the headlines: 120 arrests of right-wing thugs. What they don't point out is that I think it was 82 of them were arrested for not committing a crime, but in case they committed a crime, they're likely to commit a breach of the peace, so we're going to arrest them all. So they arrested everybody in a pub. Everybody. They'd done absolutely nothing wrong. How do we know? Because they all got let go free. Every single one of them. They're out. No charges. The other 20 or 30 or however many got arrested, they haven't been brought to court. So in this country, it used to be that you were innocent until proved guilty. But now if you're arrested, you're guilty, according to the media. But on the other side, what they haven't mentioned is that 150 people from the Hamas demonstration, the pro-Hamas demonstration, have basically been arrested for public order offences, throwing fireworks at the police, attacking people wearing poppies, etc., etc., etc. But the media aren't reporting on that because it doesn't fit their agenda. Well, we're here to tell you the truth about what happened. When you look at the video, you'll see exactly what happened. Getting back to the incident, the lines were breached. Everybody got to the cenotaph and everything calmed down. The media are still lying and saying that the 2-minute silence on Armistice Day day was disturbed.
Men, some in balaclavas, form a line in the middle of the road as the armistice service is about to begin. They start chanting as veterans gather to pay their respects. According to the organisers, that disruption continued during the 2-minute silence at 11 o'clock.
That is completely untrue. At the end of the 2-minute silence, when it was over, a small section of the crowd started singing Rule Britannia, realised it was inappropriate and stopped straight away. The other thing I want to say about the crowd that got to the cenotaph, many of those young men have probably never been to the cenotaph before in London. It's the first time, maybe even going to a remembrance service. There's a lot of young lads there that have got really passionate about what's going on in the country, and that's encouraging to see young people taking this seriously and standing with us who've been standing doing this for a long time. Those lads may well have not been anywhere near the cenotaph before. They wouldn't have known exactly how to carry themselves. I'm not making excuses for any bad behaviour. But what I'm saying is there is a culture in the military and in those sort of services. It's very solemn, it's very respectful. And ours was. Ours was. Once that 2-minute silence started, there was a great solemnity. The other thing is, when the veterans walked past, they got a round of applause. When the military walked past, they got a round of applause. I wonder if there's any footage of what happened during the 2-minute silence at the Hamas demonstration. I wonder, is there any footage of what happened with the 2-minute silence anywhere along that route where they were marching? Probably not. Okay, they didn't set off till 12 o'clock, but I'd love to see what Hyde Park was like at 11 o'clock. I bet they didn't fall silent, because not too many of them were wearing poppies either. And one more point. There was very few police officers wearing poppies as well, which is sad. Years ago, many police officers were ex-soldiers. It was like one career for another, very, very similar career. That's not the case anymore. And I must say, and I hate to say this, until 7 years ago, I had the highest respect for the police because I served with them in Northern Ireland. And I thought all police officers were like the RUC. Sadly, that is not the case. We have PCs. And that is a big problem for this country. Our country is facing great challenges, but anybody that was at the demonstration on Saturday can be proud of the way they carried themselves during the minute silence, before the minute silence. I believe that we have been demonised and slandered by the media, by the police, by the Prime Minister, by the Leader of the Opposition. I'm sure Yvette Cooper had a go as well. She can't help herself. We're facing a very real danger in this country of an explosion of violence. And what we do as a movement is give an outlet for that anger in a non-violent manner. And I believe that what is going to happen soon is that even that ability to protest non-violently, peacefully, yes, sometimes it's rowdy, sometimes it's raucous, sometimes people sing songs, sometimes they chant Tommy's name, but that is an outlet for the anger that is palpable in our community, in our country. And I believe that may well be taken off us, and we've got to fight to stop that happening. Anyway, that's what happened at the weekend. I hope it makes sense. I hope that you see from the video who was to blame for the aggression. And like I say, we were told to go there by the police. We went there, and then we were met with force. And that's not what should have happened. It's wrong, and it's not the first time, and it won't be the last.